Vargan and Asmund, The Red Thread North. Written by Captain Punkkari. Home can be a scent one refuses to forget. Chapter 1. When the yard fell silent. That morning, the central Finland farm woke not to a rooster, but to the rustle of boxes. The farmer carried chairs to the moving van, the children clutched a red woolen scarf, and their mother closed the windows one by one. The farm had been sold, and a new home waited in Norway. Everyone believed Vargan and Asmund would be brought safely after them. When the car's red lights vanished between the birches, two untouched bowls remained in the yard. The wind rolled a single red strand beneath the steps. The old house creaked as though it were trying to speak, but the road answered only with silence. Chapter 2. The Two Who Remained. Vargan stood at the gate until evening darkened his smoke-grey coat. He was already an enormous young dog, a black mask, amber eyes, and paws like 4 bread shovels. Yet a puppy's question still lingered in his gaze. Why had the road carried everyone else away? Asmund sat on the barn steps. The huge farm cat resembled a Norwegian forest cat, but his uneven ruff stuck up like a punk's hair.
"If you intend to stare at the road all night,"
Asmund said, "tell me now. I shall find a more comfortable stone." Vargan did not smile. His nostrils trembled. A beloved scent still lived on the road. Chapter 3. A Scent from the North. Before dawn, frost edged every blade of grass with silver. Vargan lowered his muzzle to the road. He separated damp wool, the children's boots and engine oil, and beneath them, the warm scent of his family. The trail ran north.
"That is a long way,"
Asmund observed from the gate post.
"So is waiting,"
Vargan replied. The dog left before sunrise. Asmund let him cross the whole field alone. Then the cat sighed, stretched with dignity, and jumped down.
"Someone must stop you walking straight into a lake."
And so the journey began, not for glory or hunger, but because home can be a scent one refuses to forget. Chapter 4. The forest was never empty. The forest taught them from the first day. Spruce held tight to dark green needles. Pine lifted red-brown bark toward the sun. Birch shimmered white in the autumn wind. Blueberries shone blue and lingonberries red among the moss. At the bog's edge, cloudberries glowed like tiny amber buttons. Asmund hunted with his ears. He heard a vole rustling beneath leaves, sank low, and waited. Vargan hunted with his nose. He found water, old fish scraps, and a safe path before the cat could ask.
"You find everything,"
Asmund admitted.
"You catch what moves,"
said Vargan. With two very different skills, the forest became pantry, map, and school. Chapter 5. 5 Pairs of Eyes. One blue evening, the forest stopped in the middle of a sentence. 5 wolves appeared on the ridge. They neither growled nor rushed. They simply measured the travelers with yellow eyes. Vargan stood crosswise on the path. His broad Kangal-inherited head rose, but his tail remained calm. Asmund leapt to a separate boulder so he could watch every direction.
5.
The cat whispered.
"And 2 of us. Let us look large,"
Vargan answered. Wolves hunted as a pack and saved their strength. They needed no useless battle. At last, the oldest wolf turned. The pack flowed soundlessly into the spruce shadows. Vargan waited another 100 heartbeats before moving on. Chapter 6. The Golden Bog. Morning over the bog was rose-red. Cloudberries reached through the russet grass, and 2 cranes flew south with their long necks straight. A cow moose crossed the shallows with her calf. Broad hooves sank into mud, but long legs carried them onward. Vargan stopped on a dry hummock. He could have followed, but the mother laid her ears back. That was message enough.
"We do not hunt one who is guarding her child,"
he said. Asmund tasted a cloudberry and grimaced.
"The forest serves dessert without cream. Outrageous."
They circled far around the moose. When the mist opened, a northbound trail crossed the Golden Bog like an arrow. Chapter 7. The Bear's Forest. Rain darkened the spruce forest. Then Vargan smelled wet fur, moss, and the heat of a powerful animal. A mother bear stood below a tree while two cubs clung safely to branches above. Vargan stopped without showing his teeth. He turned sideways and left the far side of the path open. Asmund peered from behind a granite boulder.
So your plan is to look the size of a barn, but polite.
Exactly.
The bear made one short bluff charge, stopped and huffed. Vargan did not move. When the cubs came down, she led them away. In the forest, courage did not always mean attacking. Sometimes it meant standing still until everyone had room to leave in peace. Chapter 8. The Red Thread. The first snow came below the high mountains. A red woolen scarf had snagged on a birch branch. It snapped in the wind like a tiny flag in the white world. Vargan breathed its scent for a long time. It carried a child's hand, familiar soap and smoke from the old farmhouse stove.
They pass this way,
he said. Asmund touched the red yarn with his nose.
Then the north will wait for us, not the other way round.
They left the scarf on the branch as a sign that the true trail had been found. Vargan fixed the scent in his memory and set off toward a white pass where the mountain climbed into cloud. Chapter 9. The Mountain Closes Its Door. The roar began deep below, as if the mountain had turned in its sleep. Snow tore free and raced into the pass. Vargan sprang aside, Asmund vanished behind a rock, and white powder swallowed the world. When the air cleared, a wall of snow stood before them. The road back was gone. The way ahead looked just as impassable.
The door is closed,
said Asmund, shaking snow from his whiskers. Vargan searched the avalanche edge with his muzzle low. A narrow thread of cold air slipped from behind a stone.
Then we find a window.
The mountain had shut the great road, but left one secret no wider than a paw. Chapter 10. The Hare's Road. A snowdrift exploded before them. A mountain hare burst out in white winter fur, turned once, and bounded onto a narrow ledge above the gorge. Its great hind feet carried it over snow without sinking. Asmund raced after it.
a guide with no time for introductions.
Do not hunt the guide.
Vargan called. The hare knew which snow would hold. They followed its prints into mountain birches. Wind bent the small trees until their branches nearly touched the ground, yet they did not break.
They bend so the storm cannot break them.
Vargan said. Asmund inspected his own perfectly straight whiskers.
I bend too, selectively.
Chapter 11. A Winter Coat for Shelter. The storm sharpened, and ice packed between Asmund's toes. Vargan pressed beside a bowed mountain birch and made a shelter with his body. Snow collected on his long double coat, while the warm undercoat kept his skin dry.
You have become a moving wall.
Asmund said from shelter.
A wall with a nose.
They waited through the worst gusts. Flexible birch branches swept snow across their tracks, as if the mountain itself meant to hide them. When the wind eased, Vargan shook his coat. Snow flew in a glittering arc.
And now the wall is snowing.
Asmund observed. Chapter 12. A White Surprise. A ptarmigan burst from the snow so close that Asmund sat on his own tail. The bird's white winter plumage vanished against the slope. Only a dark eye and beating wings revealed it.
Excellent camouflage. Terrible manners.
Asmund spluttered. Higher up, a raven flew from stone to stone and called once. Vargan watched. Ravens had long memories. They knew food, danger, and roads that returned beneath the snow each year.
It is showing us a way.
Vargan said.
Or a restaurant.
Replied Asmund. This time, the raven led them into a corridor of broken stone and to enormous clawed tracks pressed deep into the snow. Chapter 13. The Wolverine Keeps Its Mountain. The tracks were wider than a dog's, and the claws cut deep. Vargan studied them carefully.
Wolverine. Strong, solitary, and best left alone.
A dark, low-built animal stood on the ridge. A wolverine could cross deep snow, open frozen food, and defend what it found. It looked at Vargan, then at Asmund. For once, the cat offered no remark. After a long moment, the wolverine turned and vanished into the wind.
For once, I agree with every word.
Asmund whispered. They made a wide circle. The mountain was large enough for everyone when no one demanded all of it. Chapter 14. The puppy fades into the wind. On the narrow ledge, Vargan noticed that his step no longer searched for confidence. His shoulders had broadened and his chest deepened. Puppy softness was leaving his face, though the amber eyes and black mask remained. Winter grew his coat long, silver-gray and tousled, revealing his old English sheepdog heritage beside the powerful guardian build inherited from the Kangal. Fully grown, Vargan would stand about 80 centimeters at the shoulder and weigh 120 kilograms bone, muscle, strength, and a heavy double coat, not clumsy roundness.
Have you grown again?
Asmund asked.
The path became narrower.
Of course.
Said Asmund. It is the mountain that is shrinking. Chapter 15. The stone fell, the cat did not. The trail narrowed to the width of Vargan's paw. The dog went first, pressing firm steps into the snow. Asmund followed at a distance. Friends did not always need to stand side by side to travel together. Then a stone broke beneath the cat. It bounced into the gorge, but Asmund's claws caught a crack. Vargan turned, lowered himself, and stretched one great paw toward the edge. Asmund pulled himself up before it was needed.
I meant to test that stone,
he said, washing a paw. The shadow of a golden eagle passed over them. Vargan moved above the cat.
Keep closer.
I had just planned the same thing.
Chapter 16. Little black berries. Above the tree line, plants hugged the ground. Crowberries crawled beneath stones, their black fruit shining. Asmund sniffed them.
Useful food. Disappointingly small bowls.
Vargan did not answer. His ears turned uphill. A thin crack whispered inside the snow cornice. Both animals froze. A split raced through the white edge. They leapt forward as the cornice collapsed, erasing the road behind. Drifting snow filled their old tracks.
The mountain is warning us forward.
Vargan said. There was no longer a path behind them. Ahead, the slope opened onto a blue, sleeping lake. Chapter 17. The lake sang. The lake ice boomed from below, like an unseen drum beneath the snow. Asmund pressed one ear to the surface.
The ice is singing.
It is warning us too,
said Vargan. He smelled dark, moving water at the outlet. Ice near running water could be thin even when the rest looked strong. They stayed on land. Willows bent over the shore and sheltered a safe route. Asmund caught a vole beneath a drift. Vargan found a fish left on the bank. They ate carefully and left the rest for the raven. In the afternoon, broad split-hoof prints appeared between the willows. Chapter 18. The reindeers rode. 7 reindeer rose from the snowfall like a quiet gray ship. Their broad hooves spread their weight on soft snow, so they did not sink like narrow paws. The oldest doe studied the travelers, turned into the willows, then looked back.
She tells us to follow,
said Asmund.
She shows a road.
Vargan corrected.
Giving orders is your speciality.
The reindeer trail descended below the tree line. Spruce returned, the wind weakened, and the snow smelled of soil again. Vargan's great paws sank less than before. His growing body had learned to carry itself. A bright red strand waited among green juniper needles. Chapter 19. Less than a day old. Asmund touched the yarn with his nose.
Another thread. They came this way.
Beside it lay a human bootprint. Its edges were sharp, and wind had not yet filled the pattern. Vargan breathed deeply. Soap, leather, the scent of a child's hand that had tied the lace.
Fresh, less than a day.
They hurried downhill as fast as the stones allowed. In blue evening light, a Norwegian valley opened between the mountains. Smoke lifted from a roof, and a window glowed. Asmund jumped onto a stone wall. His green eyes widened.
Home.
Vargan did not answer. He was already running into the yard. Chapter 20. One day too late. The yard remembered Vargan's pause. A door stood open, but every room was empty. Ash in the stove was cold. One strand of red wool lay on the floor, and fresh tire tracks led out through the gate. They were one day too late. The family had moved again, this time to the coastal city of Skarvik. Asmund sat on the threshold and made no joke. Vargan lowered his muzzle to the tire mark. Grief passed through him, but it did not stop his feet.
They're sent,
He said at last.
engine oil and sea salt.
A deep horn sounded far away. It rolled through the forest like a waking giant. Chapter 21. The road the sea swallowed. Beyond the pines, a car ferry swallowed an entire road. Lorries drove into its bright belly, cars disappeared after them, and gulls circled above the black fjord. At the terminal gate, the family's trail mixed with 100 tires. Asmund climbed onto a rock and narrowed his eyes.
That is a very large door.
Vargan tested the wind. Sea salt stung his nose, but a faint beloved scent still threaded through it. The ferry would carry the trail to Skarvik.
How does a dog the size of a barn pass unseen?
Asmund asked. Vargan watched the slowly moving lorries.
In the shadow of a moving barn.
Chapter 22. Two stowaways. Asmund slipped under the fence and waited on a coil of rope. Vargan moved alone in the dark side shadow of a slowly boarding lorry. He stopped when its wheels stopped and stepped when they rolled again.
Subtle.
Asmund whispered when he saw his friend on the ramp.
For something the size of a barn.
Steel clanged. The loading ramp began to rise behind them. Vargan and Asmund reached the shelter of the vehicle deck, just as black water opened between ship and shore. The mountains fell behind. For the first time, Vargan's road moved beneath his paws. He did not know whether it carried them toward family or danger, only that the trail continued. Chapter 23. More lights than stars. At night, Skarvik lit the far side of the fjord. Tall buildings shone in rain, cranes bowed above the harbor, and bridges tied the districts together. Asmund threaded between cars onto the outer deck.
It has more lights than stars.
Vargan smelled diesel, fish, and wet asphalt, and somewhere beyond them, his family. But the city held other scents. Beneath a bridge moved dogs with no home and no waiting bowl. Their world was made of alleys, warehouses, and carefully guarded scraps of food. The ferry neared the quay. In the bridge shadows, a scarred stray leader raised her head. Before the family found Vargan and Asmund, the city had already caught their scent. Signs along the road. Nature gave the travelers no ready answers. It gave them signs, and they learned to read them. Spruce, pine, and birch. Spruce has short single needles, pine needles grow in pairs, and birch is recognized by its pale bark. Blueberry, lingonberry, and cloudberries. Blueberries prefer moist woodland, lingonberries drier forest floor, and golden cloudberries open bogs. Reading tracks. Vargan separates layers of scent and pressure in a print. Asmund hears small prey moving beneath leaves and snow. Winter survivors. A ptarmigan's white plumage, a reindeer's broad hooves, and a wolverine's powerful body are different answers to cold. Remember, watch wild animals from a distance. Never approach a bear, moose, or reindeer. The journey continues in Skarvik. Before the family found them, the city had already caught their scent.